see the sunshine and you can feel the sunshine, but it doesn't put you off going outside.
Well, you're absolutely correct. The only thing is that I like going to down the river to watch sunrise in the morning. When it's 10, 12 degrees, a little on the nippy
It's
side.
not as
It's a little on the
intriguing,
nippy side.
enticing.
Because one of my rituals is going down the Swan River where we live, just down the road, and watching sunrise.
Do you know what I've actually, since you brought that up, I took a lot on board that day. I may not have seemed like I was paying much attention, but I've done that quite a few times myself. And
How'd you find it?
yeah, it's great watching the day appear.
Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah, and I'll try and encourage. When I have my children at the weekends, try and encourage the older two to come out and watch it as well, and just see what do they think.
Did I tell you the rituals Cian and I do at the end of the year, beginning of the new year?
No.
We're
Okay.
live now, guys. Just so you know, you're good to go.
Okay.
And you've got 100% of the camera because my camera's decided to die on us.
Okay.
It's probably for the best, really, Greg.
Yeah, you don't need to see my face.
No.
So you're going on about your rituals. The river, do you do that every day?
As much as I can. Some days I don't when I've got other priorities. Like today I didn't because I was on a Skype call to the US at 7 a.m. So I didn't do that. Tomorrow morning I'll be back down the river. Yesterday morning I didn't go because I had an early departure down south.
All right. When we spoke to you last, and you said about going out and watching the sunrise every day, and in the evenings going and watch the sun go down.
Yep.
Daz took it on himself. He thought this is a great idea. This is a fantastic opportunity. So the next morning, he gets himself out of bed and drags his little boy with him to go watch the sunrise to find that the biggest storm to hit Perth in the year has turned
Yeah,
up.
we cancelled last minute.
I thought that was brilliant.
The umbrella would have basically been a lightning rod.
All the way home in the car. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to listen to Richard. He said, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to watch the sunrise, I'm going to start my day, and this is what we're going to do. And then kaboom.
Well, life's a bit like that.
Yeah.
I'll
My
give-
life is, yeah.
Well, the thing is, things like that happen just to show you contrast. For example, I washed the car this morning before coming here. And this hasn't happened before. So I'm parking under the tree, and the car's beautiful, nice and clean. And then as I walk out to drive out, there's a whole stack of leaves and wood that's just dropped on the car. Just like it just felt like the tree shat on the car. I kid you not. The roof was just full of wood and pieces and stuff like that.
Most people call that irony.
Yeah.
So stuff like that happens. It's just a reminder that you can't take things as complacent. And I find one of the things is this. You go wash your car and it rains.
Yep.
So life's a bit like that at times.
Mhm.
So what you got to do is you got to take the cold with the hot and roll with it.
I'm with you. When we came to your house last, how many weeks ago was this? This is 4 weeks ago
3,
now, isn't
4
it?
weeks.
3 or 4
Yeah,
weeks,
about
yeah.
that,
You put us on a fantastic machine called the Pandora light,
That's correct.
which is a sister light to the Lucia light.
Well, not quite a sister, but it's a evolution of that. The Lucia light is the first one.
How do you pronounce it?
Lucia.
Lucia.
L-U-C-I-A. I'm not Italian. The Italians would pronounce it a little differently, but L-U-C-I-A, Lucia. That means light in Italian.
Ah,
So
so pretty simple.
that's correct. However, the Lucia light was developed by 2 Austrian medical doctors.
Uh-huh.
And the Lucia light is the first of this genre of lights because we've had LEDs and lights for a long time. And it's known that LED lights, particularly red LEDs, have got healing properties for people. Infrared light is really good for the body in terms of stress and muscle strain and things like that. Now, the history between Lucia light was this. The 2 Austrian medical doctors, one's a psychiatrist, one's a neurologist. Now, Engelbert, who's the psychiatrist, had 3 near-death experiences. Now, people that have near-death experiences, when they come back, usually their life is never the same.
No, they all have a story to tell.
They have a story to tell, experience that's completely kind of like out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people see this bright light. So Engelbert had 3 near-death experiences. The first one was at the age of 7. each time he sees this bright light, and it's beautiful. And so he and his friend Dirk, who's the neurologist, decided to see if they could replicate that light on this planet. So they did their research, and there was nothing around. They went back and did some research in terms of the Greeks and Romans.
Yep.
And they found that the Greeks and Romans used to take their torches into caves and look at the flickering light to go and get into kind of a hallucinative psychedelic state. So there's a technical term called a hypnagogic experience,
Hypnagogic.
Hypnagogic. So what that term means is that you have an altered state that's stimulated by light. So how this lamp works is that it's got 8 LEDs that flash. The Lucia light has a central halogen light that's constant. So the combination of the two with the flashing lights, and the lights flash at different frequencies, it flashes at different flash rates, and there's different intensities of the light.
So when I was under, and the only way I can describe it as I am hallucinating.
Yeah.
Consciously, which
Yeah.
is what really amazed
yeah.
me, because if it's taken by something, or you hallucinate via something else, you're usually not really coherent, and you see things, and you don't really put it together till afterwards. But at the time you're laying there, you're completely with it, and you're looking around your eyelids and seeing different things. And then these shapes will all change, and the direction of these shapes will change. And that is the frequency of the light changing, was it? Because my eyes are closed. I can't actually see what the light was doing.
You look at this with your eyes closed, and what happens is the computer program goes through different phases, and each phase has either a different frequency, a different flash rate, and different configuration. And it's the variation that causes all this stimulation. So you'll find that the light will hit you and you'll see a particular pattern. Then the pattern will change. That's the program shifting.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is this. It is all white light.
Yeah,
And
but the
you
colours
see-
were amazing.
You see
Yeah.
amazing colors.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why you see colors is this. Your third eye, or your pineal gland, is a water sac. And your pineal gland is the only other organ in your body with rods and cones that respond to light.
The same rods and cones that you find.
Yeah, in the
In your eye.
in your retina. So the water sac in your pineal gland has crystals called pinealocytes. These crystals, when stimulated, give off color.
Okay.
And they've proven that in the laboratory. So this is why you see different colors and shapes. The other interesting thing is that the experience you have is unique to you. So you can put 2 people on the same program, they will not have the same experience. Then I can run the same program on you 3 days in a row, and you're going to have 3 separate experiences on each of
Jesus
those
Christ.
days. Yeah. So that's what happens. Why is that? The reason you have those different experiences is because the light stimulation through your eye, which goes into your third eye, it also stimulates the 2 other primary glands in your brain, which is your pituitary, your hypothalamus. So they are your master glands that run your endocrine system. But it's your pineal gland that gives you the visuals of what's going on. Now, when you look at the pineal gland, it is not just a gland that secretes hormones. It's much more than that. Descrates, who's a Greek philosopher, called it the seat of your soul. And the ancients used to look upon the pineal gland as much, much more. They kind of described it as the God organ, whereby your spiritual experiences are centered in your pineal gland.
Like the G-spot of the brain.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it. Now, on the onset of death, it is believed that the pineal gland dumps a huge amount of DMT into your body. And that's what gives you your out-of-body experiences. Now, when you take psychedelics, particularly ayahuasca, and there's a huge, huge rage of people going into South America having ayahuasca experiences.
That's not that new zombie drug that's kicking around at the minute.
Flakka.
That's flakka.
I don't know what's in that, but a lot
Have
of
you seen that?
No,
That's horrible. That's
a lot
really
of these
scary.
a lot of these drugs are concoctions, right? A bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that. The problem with all these drugs is that they do all sorts of things to you with different side effects.
Yep.
The issue with ayahuasca is this: it's plant medicine, and when you have an ayahuasca experience, it takes you to heaven and to hell. The heaven's incredible bliss, the hell is awful. So you get both of that. The interesting thing with these light experiences is that it's all heaven, no hell, because it's just light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference.
So
There's-
is there a direct link then? Because like people always look at like the darkness to be bad. So taking the light away, you've left with darkness. Is that where the bad thoughts come from, or the bad
Okay.
experiences, or
You've opened a whole big area, Darren.
yeah, I do that.
You know, like
That's why I'm here.
like let me finish about the light. With
Yeah,
the
then we go to
light.
the dark.
Then
Okay.
we'll talk about
Okay.
dark.
Okay.
Okay. One thing I've come to realize in my life is, number one, nothing is as it seems. Number two, there's always much more than meets the eye. Number three, when you look beyond the obvious, you can see the silver lining beyond the cloud, or you can see the rainbow after the rain. Now, here's the thing. There is no rainbow without rain.
That's correct.
You see? Then once there's a rainbow after the rain, then you follow the rainbow to find the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
So these are kind of metaphors around the place.
Something
etc.
like that went through my brain today. I've been thinking about doing a podcast for 18 months or 2 years and just procrastinating about it in the background of life. But it seemed that all these series of events happened in my life that I dealt with.
Yep.
And then one day it made sense that they'd happened, I want to say for a reason, but I don't know. They all happened, let's say, for a reason, which allowed me to then step forward to do the podcast.
You find it hard to admit that, don't you?
Yeah, it's it's a strange one. And it's something I only popped into my head today, and it was sort of that way of thinking that made me come up with that there was things I wanted to do, but before I could do them, other things had to fall in place first.
Those other things were what had to fall into place to prepare you for this.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
And when you were going through the stuff that was preparing you for this, it didn't make sense. It's only when you look back and you end up where you
100%.
are, and you look back and see what's happened to you, you realize that all these pieces have actually played a role in preparing you for where you are.
Yeah, you're always where you're meant to be.
Exactly. So nothing is isolated. Everything is interconnected. There's actually, I'll come back to the light and dark, but we're
That's
just doing
okay.
a digression moment. Okay?
Let's go.
Yeah, we go.
Let me highlight something that's a fact. There's a alternative physicist by the name of Nassim Haramein who's on the internet. So some people who research this kind of stuff will know about him. So if you're into quantum physics and quantum science, you'll know about Nassim Haramein. Well, at the Conscious Life Expo in LA, I think it was in 2016, he produced a paper that proved mathematically that in the middle of every atom, which is 99.99 whatever percent empty space.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 1 trillion atoms, and most of it's empty space. So when you say to someone, there's nothing in your head, that little flippant remark has a lot of truth behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So he proved mathematically that in the middle of every single atom is a mini black hole.
Yes.
That mini black hole connects everything to everything. So you know how the Star Wars movies, we've got the Force.
I just watched the latest one yesterday, the day before, I think. Yeah.
What, The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Yeah, but I could tell it was written by, well, not written by Lucas. There was things in it that if you follow all the Star Wars,
Yeah.
there's things in there that were like, oh, this is new. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can
I
accept
mean,
it.
this is what Disney's done. You see,
Exactly, yep.
Disney's bought over Star
Yeah.
Wars, so that's what happened.
There was comedy put into it, and
Of
that's what I was a
course.
bit...
What?
No,
No, not
That was
with
a-
Star Wars.
yeah,
No.
no.
But
Seri-
you've got to have these quips. Like, did you see Avengers: The Infinity Wars? Have you watched that?
No?
Well, go watch that. Now, I saw that when I was in Melbourne, beginning of May, which was last week.
Yep.
So I saw Infinity Wars in Melbourne. Did you know that Melbourne IMAX theater in Melbourne is the biggest in the world. Now, I didn't knew that. I knew it was damn big.
The IMAX
But
theatre. I'm
The
sure I've
IMAX
been
theater
there.
in Melbourne is the biggest IMAX theater in the world. So we've got it down here in Australia.
Oh wow.
That is. Where is it?
It's in the
I'm sure I've been there when I was out
it's
there.
near the it's located within the Melbourne Museum next to the old exhibition buildings in Carlton.
Carlton. No. Okay, I'm thinking of a different one.
It's 5 stories high.
Oh crap! No, it's definitely not that one.
This one's 5 stories high, right? It's about 120 foot wide. We go in there, it's massive, the screen. They got a 14,000 watt stereo system pumping
Yeah.
the sound out. Yeah. And they got the latest laser projection technology, and they got decent 3D glasses, not the cheap plastic stuff
Yep.
you get here, but they got decent 3D glasses, so the 3D effects are actually very good. So I saw The Last Jedi there in December last year with my son, and I went there to watch Infinity Wars, and I can only describe the cinema experience as super epic.
Man.
Man. Yeah.
So anyway, Star Wars being there's this whole new genre out.
Yep.
In terms of extending the storyline,
Yeah.
etc. So anyway, back to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Back on track.
Back to the Force. There empty space is not empty. We've been led to believe there's nothing in empty space. That's actually not true.
That's physically not possible anyway.
Empty space, the space beyond the planet, there is a field there of something
Yep.
that we're not aware of. Now, scientists study in the universe, there's these big things called black holes.
Mm-hmm.
And these big things called black holes suck in everything, right? They suck in stars, they suck in
Whole solar system.
life, they suck in solar systems, everything else, etc., etc., etc. And it's really interesting to realize the phenomena of what it is and why it does that. The interesting thing is also when people hear about that, there's all this fear go up. Oh my God, if it turns up, and what happens if it sucks this planet Earth that we're living in, and then we become nothing? So
Yep.
people have thoughts like that.
Mm.
And this begs another thread. Your thoughts and your thinking determine what happened to you.
Yes.
So just like what Darren was saying when we're talking about family and everything else. So the moment you change your thinking and look at things a different way,
From a different perspective, yeah.
different perspective,
Mhm.
everything changes. So you know how famous people have famous sayings.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not famous, but this is Richard's saying.
You might be. You might be after this.
It could happen. Could happen. Your perspective on your position determines your power or lack of.
Mm-hmm.
So PPP, perspective, position, power. So your perspective on your position determines your power.
That's why people always ask, "What do you do for a living?" It's so they can
Yeah,
put you
that-
in a position of.
Yeah, they're trying to.
I believe so because it's not really important.
It's a yardstick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean I don't credit
It's an
anybody.
old-fashioned way to do it, but I think it's just bred into people these days, and they'll.
People do things out of habit.
Mm.
People are creatures of habit.
They don't even realise they're doing it half
They
the time,
don't
I'm sure.
realise
But
they
if
have
someone answered you and said, "I'm a judge," and the guy next to you said,
Don't judge
I'm
me.
Yeah, "I'm something else," then they'd put that judge up. Oh, yeah, just be
Well, yeah,
careful,
like
there's a judge there.
so say like if you turn around and say, "Oh, well, so I'm a plasterer," okay, and then they say, "Well, I'm a lawyer."
They hold him in high regard.
Well, certain people. I
Society
never
would.
have. Because I mean, I take philosophy
but
off my mum. Like
society wouldn't,
we've
no.
all got a hole up our rear end, so we're all human. So you can't really put anybody on. I mean, you can have certain respect for people's achievements.
Yep.
And the fact that they've done well to get there, but that doesn't mean that they're of a higher being than you. Depends how you value yourself, I suppose. I don't value myself by my career or what's
here's
in my
the
bank.
thing. Here's the thing about perspective, right? Perspective is one thing, but you need 2 other things apart from perspective. Perspective is which view you take. Then after perspective, the next most important thing is to put your perspective into what I call context.
Mm-hmm.
Context puts a frame around the picture. Okay, your perspective is the picture. Then context puts the frame around the picture. The frame around the picture determines the meaning of the meaning of the picture. So putting everything in context is really important. The problem a lot of people have is they look at something and they go half-cocked and they don't put it in context, they make a mountain out of a molehill.
Consistency is key.
What happens then
Mhm.
is a story gets created. And a story will become true when you feed enough life into it. So when you repeat it, you feed life into it, and your belief goes into that, then a story becomes true for you.
Of
And
course.
then you live an illusion in your life. Now, stories are wonderful things. You tell your kids bedtime stories. You make stories up for yourself. Stories are part of
I
life.
tell myself stories all the time.
Yeah, so stories are not a bad thing. The issue with stories is, where does it lead you? So, the third thing is, after context is direction. So you got perspective, how you're looking at things,
Mhm.
change your perspective, get a better perspective, get a bigger perspective, get a higher perspective, all that kind of stuff is important. Because if you just get one, then you're limiting yourself to what's really going on. So the second thing is to put it in context. So putting in context is, well, how does this relate to me right now? How does it relate to my family? Is it really important to me? What's going to happen? Let me give you and then what's the direction? Let me give you an example. AI, artificial intelligence. AI is in the news. And there's people around me talking about AI. And a lot of it's in fear. We're going to die. AI is going to take over us. AI is going to cause robots to be like hell in 2001 Odyssey that took over and killed everybody on
People have been
on
watching too much
spaceship.
iRobot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. So,
The day my Apple laptop jumps up and slaps me around the face,
yeah.
stop the world, I'm getting
Exactly. Well,
Pretty much.
this is a big issue in autonomous motor cars,
off. Yeah.
right? People going, I don't know that I
Well,
want.
they actually have killed people.
Yeah. People go, oh, I don't know that I want to give my total safety over to a car automatically. Now, I don't know if you watched the last Fast and Furious movie called Fate to Furious.
Yes.
In that one, they had all these cars being hijacked automatically. Did you
Yeah,
see the
I saw it.
scene?
Yeah.
They got hijacked automatically, and then these driverless cars were hijacked to go and cause mayhem on the
Yep.
road and everything else. And then they also took over these cars at a multi-story parking lot and made it rain cars down on the pavement.
What was it?
So that was in Fate of Furious. And you go, flip. If technology can do that and some idiot hijacks the system,
It's not.
and I'm sitting in the car and I get locked in, I'm a victim to all
Yep.
that.
But it's not technology doing that. It's people doing that. Technology only knows what information that
but
people put into
it's
it.
still leaving that loophole
exactly.
open for that to happen. So that's
Exactly.
where people are
Yeah.
scared, I think.
Exactly. Now, my point is this. What we're talking about is just speculation. Okay? So that's perspective. That is a what if. That's a direction. That's something that could happen.
It's got the potential.
Got the potential. Now, if you put it in context of today, where is that technology today? A long way in front. Are we anywhere near doing that? No, we're not. If you look at autonomous cars, there are 5 different levels of autonomous driving. Level 5 is the fully automatic. Okay? We only have level 2 autonomous driving in cars at the moment in this country and in the US. The first car that has level 3 autonomous driving is the new Audi A8, which has not been released yet.
Why would you want to buy an Audi A8 that you can't drive?
Well,
I can't think of anything worse.
Have you? Do you remember Jason Statham in the
Jason Statham.
Transporter.
Transporter?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was an Audi A8
Yep.
in those days.
If I could afford that car, I would want to drive it.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be able to drive that. But the advantage of autonomous driving is this. We live in cities whereby traffic is only getting worse. And I enjoy cars. I enjoy my driving. The only place I can enjoy driving now is on the racetrack, or if I find a very short stretch of a mountain road where I can go and give the car its head. Apart from that, when I'm commuting, I'm just getting from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm getting from A to B, I'm happy for me. Let the car do the driving.
Yeah,
Now
that's true.
Now, have you driven a Tesla in traffic?
Yeah, and it cuts out.
Well, what happens with the Tesla in traffic
I thought I'd broken
when
down.
you set it in, well, sometimes they do. When you sit in a Tesla and you set it on autonomous mode, it's level 2. Now, level 2 autonomous mode, what happens is that it will start, it will steer when you're in the same lane. Okay? However, what you got to do is you got to touch the steering wheel every 20 seconds or it goes off.
Right.
So that's level 2. Now, if you sit in a car in traffic like that, it's actually very comfortable. You don't have to think about accelerating, braking. You just have to touch the steering wheel and the car steers itself. It's really cool. Now, a feature I always like in a car is radar cruise control.
Yep.
I reckon radar cruise control should be on every single car because it just takes the chore out of driving. Now, back to my point.
But it can let you drift. It's another excuse to drift, isn't it?
Well, it could. But one of the things about drifting, the system is such that at level 2 autonomous driving, you have to touch the steering wheel every 20 seconds. The other thing is this. If you are drifting out of your lane, well, if the car is steering itself on the lane, you can't run into the car in front of you because of the autonomous braking and the radar systems. So even if you fall asleep behind the wheel, the car will will not run into something. However, what happens is this. If you don't touch the steering wheel after 20 seconds, the autonomous mode switches off and you have to take control of the car. Now, the more advanced systems...
That could be bad timing sometimes.
But
if you get too relaxed.
But the advanced systems are such that they will actually monitor your eyes, your head. So if it sees you going down, it goes into emergency braking. But the modern cars now, you cannot run into something because of the radar and the autonomous braking and everything else. So that's a good thing, assuming the technology works.
Yeah, I think they should, if they're going to test anything like that, it should go through Coburn. If it gets through Coburn and doesn't crash and merges,
exactly,
then that's okay.
So we've got
it's going to work anyway.
Perspective,
context, and then direction.
And so direction.
Okay,
so let's go on the direction.
Let me go back to what I was saying before. Artificial intelligence, right, could be really, really bad. Now, I want to make one point about technology here. As technology increases, the potential benefits increase. However, technology is a dual-edged sword. As the good rises, the potential bad rises the same way as well, in terms of the polarity. So, new technology, wow, cutting edge can do all this stuff. But the downside of it, or the dark side of it, could be really, really bad as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a double-edged sword like that with technology. Now, take, for example, AI right now. How much AI is actually in our life right now? Very little. Is it going to change overnight dramatically? No, because there's a long way to go before it's developed to the level that science is talking about for threats and everything else. So context, how much is AI going to change my life now? Hardly zip. How much is AI going to change my life next year? Not a lot, but you'll see it coming more and more into your everyday electronics and interactions for convenience. So what's happening with AI is algorithms. Now, the latest Google I.O., which I didn't watch, but a friend of mine told me, is that you can now get your phone to make bookings for you at a restaurant or cinema or stuff like that, and it will do it really well.
Via an app?
Yeah, I'm sure.
It'll do it really well. It's got AI, it's got voice and everything else with enunciation, etc. And the person on the other end doesn't know they're talking to a robot.
That's fucking scary.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Well, that it is. So that's how it's affecting us.
That's what's come out. So context is you're starting to see some of these things, but the danger in your life right now and next year is hardly anything. Direction, where is it going? There is no one clear direction of AI at the moment. So all the threats, we're going to die, is going to take over, right now is pure speculation because there's no specific clear direction in terms of where it's all going. So this is what I meant by saying you got to look at things from a perspective, then you got to put it in context, then you got to look at the direction where it's going, and the bottom line is this: how is it going to impact me and my family and my life right now and tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
You got to ask that question.
I think one of the important things to ask is also, if you have a problem with it, what are you going to do about it?
Absolutely nothing.
Now,
We're not on a level 2.
the issue with
Well, we're not, but you know, I mean, when you see how it affects the way young people sort of communicate with each other, and when you try to communicate with a younger person, they seem to just look like a deer in the headlights sometimes when you're trying to bring up an actual conversation.
okay,
I understand
we're
that.
not talking about AI now. We're
Yeah.
No.
talking about social media, technology.
But is that not
phones
sort of
and
a spin-off of what that's sort of bringing into our life, like the fact that you can order a meal at a restaurant without talking to a waiter? That kind of takes out of any intimacy in conversation.
Okay, so what you're talking about is broadly what technology is doing and how it's automating a whole large number of parts of our life, and what it's doing, it's taking away the human factor in terms of the connection
Yeah.
relationships.
Do we want that?
That's very real. That's very real. But what we were talking about before was the threat of AI to people.
Can you just clarify what you were referring to by AI? Because I mean, I'm not
Artificial
sure if I'm the only person
intelligence.
that's
Yeah.
listening.
Artificial intelligence.
AI is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is where a program or robot thinks for itself, makes decisions without any human input
Okay.
at all.
So okay, I'm thinking of something completely different. Yeah.
Going back to that quick, just skim over something there. When you were saying Fast and Furious, like Hollywood are always 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
Of
Exactly.
what's going to come out,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
So you watch Fast and Furious, and we go, God, they're making these cars. They can drive themselves, control themselves, brake for themselves. They can tell you when a car's going to brake in front of you. And we all go, oh, right, okay, that's good. We can see that could happen. Nobody bats an eyelid when The Simpsons puts out an episode of Donald Trump
No.
stood round the
I know,
table as the
that's
president of the United States.
That is really scary.
I look at that and I go, and not enough people are talking about this. How did that happen?
100%. Yeah.
And the next
Yeah,
thing you know,
yeah.
the New York Times says there's that Simpsons image of Donald Trump in The Simpsons.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who's controlling the puppet up there?
That scares me more than a car that could talk to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
right,
Knight
right.
Rider was onto this well before,
Yes.
Yes,
Fast and
yes.
Furious.
Correct. And
Michael Knight.
they're doing a reboot of Knight Rider as well.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
They'll never make it stick.
They're talking about doing a reboot of Knight Rider.
Come at me, kid. Come at me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, talking about Hollywood, did you know that Spielberg produced a movie called AI in 2001?
No.
He produced a movie called AI, Artificial Intelligence, in 2000 or 2001. Right now, we're talking about nearly 20 years ago
It was, wasn't
that
it?
he did that. And I watched that last year on an aeroplane, just out of curiosity. And it blew me away. It blew me away in terms of how forward-thinking he was. And also, it blew me away by the issues the movie brought up with respect to AI and human relationships and stuff like that. Brilliant. So I recommend you go watch that sometime. AI, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, okay.
I still have nightmares about Terminator. I think it's going to happen. I honestly, like, the way... see, that's the way I look at it. Like, we're going to scorch the skies and we're going to be killed by robots for no reason and used as batteries or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Used as a battery?
I don't know. There was I think, was that The Matrix?
I don't know. I think you're thinking of a hamster in a wheel or something.
Maybe. I'm just scared in
We're
general.
going to be running on treadmills,
you know,
powering robots.
And why we've got Richard here while I'm scared, I feel comfortable because he can explain things that might make me sleep better tonight.
Yeah, he can tell you
So-
how they're going to use you as a battery.
Yeah. I mean, we all produce energy, so I'm sure
Well, first of
some more than others.
Darren,
No comment, Greg.
I don't know whether it's going to make this. I don't know whether this is going to add or decrease your fear, but there's a new Terminator movie coming out.
Oh, shit.
Not with Arnold's not in it, is he? He's going to be rusty in this one.
There's talk about him being in the new one
Diesel powered.
Yeah.
because he's back. He's back into making Hollywood movies and stuff like that.
God. Okay. The old. We need some. We haven't got any new action heroes.
We don't actually.
We still got Sylvester Stallone doing
we've got
Expendables.
The
and-
Rock, but he's. We need a new one,
Rock
we
is-
need a new Arnie or a new Sylvester
yeah,
Stallone.
there's
You know,
yeah, we do 100%.
we need a
we
new
haven't got
Rocky.
one.
I think a new one.
Well, you know the movies. Is it Golden Circle? The spy movie. What was it?
The
Spy movie.
Kingsman.
Kingsman. I love that.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, have you not seen it?
There's two of them.
Great.
There's two of them starring
Fantastic.
starring a British actor, Taron Egerton. Now
And
he's
Michael Caine.
Yeah.
My name is Michael Caine.
He-
Not a lot of people know that.
He's now starring in a new Robin Hood movie. I just saw the trailer of it. And Robin Hood movies have been done to death. There's so many of them. This one's different. It looks really good, so I'm gonna go watch it. When I first heard it was gonna come out, and I went, "What? Another Robin Hood movie?" Because they've been done to death.
Yep.
Yeah, that's up my alley.
Yeah.
I love that
The
stuff.
rich have got nothing left to steal to give to the poor.
But this one is different.
Robbing them for Bitcoin.
This one is different, and so Taron could be one of these new genre action heroes because he was very good. He looked very good in that.
Yeah. And that's a Robin Hood. Is it based on the same sort of story, the same era?
Same
or?
sort of story, but it's a completely different spin the way they've done it.
Okay.
So,
But it's in that era.
It's in that era.
Yeah.
The setting's there, but they've done
humor
a
will
little
be
spin of the
different and-
they've
yeah.
done a little spin of the story. The action scenes
Yeah.
are like nothing else I've seen in
Yeah.
that era.
Yeah.
So that's the spectacular thing about it.
I look
Now-
forward to
Now,
that.
Darren, back to your question about Terminator and nightmares and
Yeah.
fears and all that kind
Okay.
of stuff.
This is why they call it the Refuge Chamber. This
Yeah.
is Darren's therapy. Let's go.
Okay. First of all, are you aware that everything that Hollywood dishes out has an agenda?
Yes, I have. I do think that.
Okay. So everything Hollywood dishes out programs people's psyche to go in a particular direction. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this. Imagination is always based on a kernel of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So imagination, when you imagine something, it's always based on an experience or an idea or something like that. Just like no lie can exist on its own merits and its own purity. So everything you imagine has a point of reference somewhere.
Yeah. Like a
et cetera.
dream as well.
Like a dream, everything else.
Mhm.
Now, we live in this world where the general consensus is that anything's possible. But whether it's probable or not depends on a number of factors.
Mhm.
The other thing is that there's a polarity and a duality with what we're talking about. For example, there's light, there's dark. We actually got to come back to darkness because
Yep.
I just remember you mentioned that.
Yep.
So there's the polarity of light and dark. Then there's love and hate. There's hot and cold. So you've got all these things going on. At a big picture level, what's really happening? Now, let me use the analogy of the chessboard to explain what I'm trying to say to you,
Mhm.
because this will make it easier to put things in context. So, on the chessboard, it's black versus white. Then there's different pieces with different capacity to move on the board.
Yep.
The pawn is the lowest pleb.
Yep.
Can only go once.
I have not heard that word for a long time.
And
Big-
there's more of them than any
There's
other
more of them
pieces.
than
Yeah.
anything else. They only can move one spot at a time.
Board full of plebs.
Yeah.
They can move one spot at a time. If there's another piece blocking it, that's it. They're stuck.
They're done. Where do we go from here?
Okay? Now, a lot of people can relate to being in that position in life.
Being a
Being,
pleb.
being a pleb and being pawns in a bigger game.
Yeah.
And if you work in a company, you are a pawn in that game.
Uh-huh.
So you don't
Even
have...
if you're in charge of a few plebs.
Yeah, but then you see, if you're in charge of a few plebs, there's always someone who's in charge of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you might have a few plebs reporting to you, but you're a bigger pleb to somebody else above you.
Yeah. But
And-
how many levels of plebs are we talking? I mean,
Well,
could be depending
We're
how big the
talking the
company is.
chessboard.
when you're looking at
Come on.
when you're looking at companies, right?
Mhm.
The further up you go, the bigger the a-hole. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, 100%.
Isn't that correct?
Be careful in case the boss is listening.
All right.
It is
See,
cool.
I work for
I'm
myself.
just a pleb,
I just work for myself, so I don't worry about that.
so I'm on a casual contract. I can casually not turn up.
And the other principle of life on this planet is that shit flows downhill.
Yeah.
Yep.
We know that.
So, anyway, back to the chessboard. On the chessboard of life, right? You got white versus black. it's win-lose. It's a battle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On the chessboard, if you lose your queen, the army goes, "Oh no, we've lost our most important piece. We're doomed." That's what it looks like. However, that's not what happens at a whole different level. A whole different level, at the level of the chess master, it's all part of the game and the strategy. To lose, sacrifice the queen
Yep.
to win the game. Okay? So, when it comes to Terminator, robots, and all this kind of stuff, what's going on? Well, one of the problems that we have in our everyday life is what we've been fed. So the information, the news that we are fed has
Mhm.
all been scripted and designed to go and put us in the oh shit category.
To get a certain reaction from
Correct.
us. Yeah.
Oh shit.
The fear factor.
Exactly.
Mhm.
However, there's always two sides to everything. Two sides to everything. Nothing's 100% bad. We just it just appears like that.
Yeah.
So you need to actually step out of that and look on the other side. Now, Terminator, robots coming in and taking over and killing us. Is it possible? The answer is yes. Is it probable? That's questionable,
Yeah.
because you got to look at what's really going on and can it happen, etc. Now, when you look at robots, the technology with robots is getting, in your words, scary.
Yeah. So that like the further we go down the road, we're sort of seeing things that we wouldn't say 20 years ago when Terminator would come out. Like you're like, that's impossible. That would never happen. Now you get a little bit further down the road and you're seeing how technology's progressed. I mean, you've got the things you could do with a phone that you put in your pocket. Incredible. You can control a drone and things like that from an iPhone. So it's becoming more and more probable. So we go down the road another 20 years. It could be happening or a lot more possible or probable.
Depends.
Okay.
You view a robot as a walking Terminator that's going to come and get you, but there's robots that will come around your house, hoover it for you, and find its way back to a charging station in the corner every time. You get those little robot vacuums you've seen now,
Yeah.
and every now and again off they go, and they'll
exactly.
That's like a Trojan horse.
circumnavigate around your house, around all your furniture,
Yeah.
plot it all out.
Tangle your dog up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they do that. Now, in a couple of years' time,
Your
we
Hoover
have
might kill you.
in a couple of years' time, we've got the 2020 Olympic Games in Japan,
Mhm.
in Tokyo. Do
That's
you
going to be a big platform for them to display their.
Well,
Fancy
you're
stuff.
absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Because what's going to happen is that there's going to be a display of artificial intelligence, robot technology, automation at a level that will blow you away.
Yep. Did you see the documentary Icarus on Netflix?
Icarus, I don't think so.
Icarus. It's kind of about that. What it's about is the Russians when they got caught for their doping,
Oh yeah.
and it goes on about every country that hosts a World Cup or the Olympics and how it's their chance to show how big their balls are and how great their nation is, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot more to it than the people just look at it and go, "Oh, it's a great spectacle," but it's all about look what we've got, look at
Flexing
who
the
we
muscles,
are,
Yeah.
look what we can do, and it's always a home nation that does incredibly well. But the Russians were found to have this big doping thing in place, and Gregory, ironically, was the guy's name from Russia who was in charge of the doping program. And as the documentary progresses, the guy that's doing it from America has to take him to America to hide him from Putin and his government because they're after him. The documentary really goes into some murky waters, man. It's a fast. That's the short story of it, but it's really worth a watch. It is an eye opener, and it all unfolds as the documentary was starting.
You see, the spectacle of the Olympics has a dark side to it in terms of agenda and also the messages that is projected from a subtle point of view, but that's from a symbolic, etc. So that's a whole another can of worms to open up. However, the interesting thing is the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, they're going to showcase robot technology like nothing else. Now, you know the previous Olympic Games, they had lots of volunteers around to actually give people information. So you could go to someone dressed in a particular color shirt or whatever.
I see
And
where
they-
you're going with this.
And they had info and would tell you where you go. Well, in the Tokyo Olympic Games, you're not going to have a person. You're going to have a robot
Mhm.
that greets you and gives you information, tells you everything. And the robot will spit out a printout of whatever you want.
Like Siri.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to happen at a jaw-dropping advanced level.
Yeah.
And also, one of the things about Japan is that they have an aging population. And the aging population they have is very, very advanced compared to other nations. Because as you know, Japan is a country that's closed off. They don't allow any migration, etc. So
Mhm.
because they don't allow any migration and they're not breeding like other countries, so their population is decreasing and the aging of the population is increasing at a level greater than other countries. So they're showcasing how they're using technology to help people in the older years.
So,
So-
it has a positive
So that
use as
so-
well.
so
Yeah, that's what you're
that-
trying to say.
that part of it is good. That part of it is good.
So what happens is people adapt, don't they? So when the news and word gets out that the news are putting the fear factor into us, people come up with other ways
Yeah.
of doing things. Like
and that-
podcasts have become incredibly
so
popular because
that's
it's a
the
free
perspective.
platform.
Yeah, that's the perspective of the way you're viewing a situation. Right?
Correct.
So from my perspective, I'm maybe looking at it really negatively, that it's going to affect me in a detrimental way, where in actual fact, if you think about it, you embrace it, the technology that's coming through, it could actually help me rather than
exactly.
you know.
So put it in context.
Yeah, so that's the context. So my perception or perspective, sorry, and then the context on how I sort of process the information for me, and then work out what direction we're going to go with as far as how we accept it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I travel a lot. I'm out of Perth 9.5 months in a year.
Yeah.
I use technology to help me. I love my tech when I travel because it makes so much difference to traveling. I've got an app called Flight Aware, which I use now all the time. One of the banes of my life is sitting in an aircraft lounge, and when the plane is delayed, they can't tell me whether they can't tell me at the counter whether the delay is 5 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah, but your phone can.
But my phone, my app can.
It's incredible.
And how I found out was I found this by accident, because they will
What's the app called again, just in case anyone wants to?
Flight Aware.
Flight Aware.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's free.
There we- Free.
So
Perfect.
what happens is you tap on the flight that you're going to get into. So it gives you all the details, like it's flying from Perth to Melbourne or whatever it is, etc. Tells you the time, the gates. Then there's a little dialogue that says, "Where is my plane now?
I think another one you're on about.
Where's my plane now?" So you tap on that,
Yeah.
and then you can actually see where that plane is.
Yep.
Then when you see where that plane is, it'll tell you where that plane is and when it's actually supposed to touch down.
Yeah. It's really easy for the Russians to find it with the missile launchers,
Exactly.
isn't it?
And then when you do that, you can work out exactly how long it's going to be delayed. Now, that's important to me because I want to know whether I've got an extra 5 minutes or 50 minutes in the lounge, because that determines what I can do with my time. So that's why that's what I like about that and how technology is useful.
So you're not waiting in anticipation based
No.
on the 20-minute thing that's on the board, because it could be here in 5 or it could be another half an hour
Correct,
further.
correct.
And
And-
it's about you being able to manage your time. It's
Exactly.
your time, so you're taking control of that.
Exactly.
You're owning it,
Exactly.
and that app is enabling you to be more efficient with your decisions.
And
yeah.
I'm spoilt when I fly because I like now to walk straight out of the lounge onto the aeroplane.
Yeah.
So I deliberately time me walking out of the lounge so I can actually achieve that. Because flying around Australia, I only fly Virgin. And I now have worked it all out to find art. That once I know when the plane lands, I know exactly how long it takes before I can walk straight out of the lounge onto the plane.
So wait for the crowd to disappear and get on board, or
No, you don't do that. When you're on platinum, you go down to priority.
Okay, well,
So when
never,
you-
never been
Your
there.
card will be full if you're flying around 9 months of the year. get all sorts of privileges.
Yeah.
We can find these planes, but they tell me they can't find MH17.
Oh, that's a whole different.
Oh,
ball.
don't get him started. Come on.
No, man,
We've got a set amount of topics.
MH370. Oh, let me tell you 3 facts of life with that. These are facts.
Yep.
Number 1, it is impossible for a plane around the planet to disappear without a trace with the satellites, the radar, everything else.
I didn't believe that for a second.
That's number 1. Okay, number 1, it's impossible for it to disappear without trace. Number 2, there's no doubt there's been a cover-up because there've been no evidence, no trace of all this kind of stuff happening. The latest report I saw recently was that somebody was saying that it was the pilot that did something of a clandestine nature.
You saw the same thing as me.
That went around.
And they said he went so low and he was going in and out of the 2 borders.
And
which is why they didn't pick it up. They go, he's in our border, he's out of our border. He's in our border, he's out of our border. In which case, they could have tracked that flight. So number 2 knocks out number 1.
My response to that article was, what a lot of bullshit and hogwash.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing is this. The reason why MH370 disappeared is not anything anybody is projecting in terms of reasons. It's something beyond. So we're talking about a situation that goes way, 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 way beyond the normal of what we can see, think, understand, aeroplanes, etc., etc. So that's where I'm at with all that.
I hear that as being deep.
It's very deep.
That's a whole nother show.
That's very, very deep. Now, when you start going deep, there are polarity of theories about that. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So further down the track, we will see. But at the moment, it's still a mystery in terms of what's happened. Just like the movie Picnic at Hanging Rock. You remember the old movie, Picnic at Hanging Rock?
No.
Okay. Old classic Aussie movie, Picnic at Hanging Rock, whereby these kids from a school, whatever, go to the Hanging Rock, and then they just disappear without a trace. And nobody knows how or why or where, etc. So we live in a world whereby there's many mysteries of stuff that happen. You've got the unexplained. And when the unexplained turns up, then you got to look out of your box. Because within your box, there's no answers, there's no logic,
People are afraid to look out of their boxes, though, eh?
Well, this is part of the problem most people have. Now, do you remember the first Matrix movie?
Yep.
The classic scene, the pill scene, where Neo meets Morpheus for the first time, and Morpheus offers Neo the blue pill or the red pill.
Yep.
And they have this conversation. And Morpheus asks Neo, "Do you believe in fate?"
I thought you were him then.
Neo's answer was this: "I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life." That was his response. And this is where everybody's at.
Yep.
They don't like the idea that they're not in control of their life. They want to hang on to the steering wheel of their life with 2 hands, and they don't want to let go.
Don't want to ride the roller coaster.
They want to steer the car of their life, the vehicle of life, exactly where they want to go. Now, that in itself is not a bad thing. The problem is that the world and the universe don't operate like that.
Nope. No. That goes back to what I said. Let things happen, and then you'll be where you're meant to be. Then you can do things.
Something that's so you just triggered something in my. I do this. I won't go on for too long, but you got the fairground rides that
merry-go-round,
or the merry-go-rounds, or I'm thinking in particular the ones with like the vehicles, like the cars and the aeroplanes that little kids go on.
Yeah.
And they've always got a steering wheel.
Yes. Yep.
And you see that little kid, that little 4-year-old boy or girl, holding on this steering wheel. They think they're driving. Am I too loud?
No, go
on. They think they're driving the vehicle, so they're being hoodwinked from a very early age that they're in control of their ride. They're enjoying the ride, they're loving the ride, and they're probably enjoying it a lot more because they think they're driving it. So that's I'm drawing a sort of
I think that's a
correlation.
I think it's a really great analogy to how people are programmed to live their lives, and how mainstream drives you down this particular direction. And my message to young people is, don't go down mainstream.
Take your hands off the wheel, you'll still enjoy the ride.
Yeah,
And there you have
but-
people stuck in their lives.
but don't go down mainstream. Mainstream is dead stream. Now, my definition of mainstream is this. You go to school, you do your year 12, you work your ass off to get your magic score to go into uni, end up with a big hex debt around your neck.
Yep.
And you're supposed to go and select a course that will guarantee your future. I saw a report a few weeks ago that said that 40% of degrees are obsolete. 40%
Of no
degrees.
use.
of degrees are of no use, obsolete.
Yeah, I can believe that.
So, but the problem is this. Young people do not have any other alternative. Parents do not have any other alternative. Parents are programmed to believe that the best thing they can do for their kids is to give them the best education to support them going through uni and getting a JOB after they get their degree. Parents are programmed to do that. They do not see the facts of life. One of the things about beliefs is that you get blinkered and you get the kangaroo in the headlight syndrome. Can't see anything else. Frozen in that particular path. The problem is there are no alternatives presented to young people.
No.
So that's why my message to young people is it's not tenable for you to jump out of mainstream at the moment because it's too difficult to go and find and create an alternative unless you've got the support around you, with which most young people don't have. So I say to young people, go down mainstream, but realize what you're doing. However, go and build alternative stream while you're down in mainstream.
Yep.
Build alternative stream means you do something different. You learn to create a nano niche out of your passions. And when you learn to create a nano niche out of you spend time building it. It's a bit like building a custom car. So if you're a petrol head,
In your spare time.
in your spare
Yeah.
time, your custom car is what you build in the garage, and you put time into it in your spare time, and it's a labor of love because it's a passion. Then when you continue diligently doing that after a period in time, it's something that you've created out of nothing, and you can drive it on the road, and it's something tangible that people can go, wow.
Yeah.
Then once you've done it, you can build more of it.
Yep.
And if people like it, there's another little business. There's your alternative stream.
One thing I was going to try and probe on, we got like a couple of topics we wanted to cover. Now there's a lot of people out there, like older adults, young adults as well, and people that's been in stuck in a rut, stuck in the same job, and they're getting complacent, and they're just going around in circles. And I think you sort of describe it as like a stuck life, and how we kind of can hack into that and get a bit of prosperity out of our life by not changing too much, but some pretty important principles. How do we go about sort of?
Okay.
How would you explain that?
Well, first of all, you have to be prepared to change your thinking. If you're not prepared to change your thinking and your beliefs, you're going to stay stuck. The other thing about being stuck is if anybody's stuck in anything, be it a job or be it difficult circumstances, like for example, I go to the US and I've lost count the number of taxi drivers or Uber drivers that I've encountered in conversation, and they are doing it hard. They're not doing 2 jobs, they're doing like 3 jobs. And the taxi driving, Uber driving is like their 3rd job just to make ends meet because times are hard and tough. And these people have like 0 spare time.
Yep.
Every waking hour is spent doing a job or getting from one place to another or doing shopping or just the bare minimum just to keep the wheels turning around.
That is physically and emotionally draining. That's dangerous.
It is very physically, emotional, draining, everything else. My point is this. I'm creating a scenario here that even if someone is in an extreme situation like that, what I'm suggesting works.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing to do if you're stuck in a rut is change the way you breathe. If you change the way you breathe, it will physiologically change your state. You get more air into your brain. Your body relaxes. The stress reduces. And when you get more oxygen into your body, you actually can think a little differently or think clearer. Now, changing your breathing is very simple. Number one, you slow it down. Number two, you breathe from your diaphragm, like your belly button. So when you breathe, you should feel your belly button going in and out, not your chest. Then you slow it down. So you take, instead of 1 second or 2 second breaths, take 3 second breaths, 5 second breaths. So like inhale over 3 seconds, inhale over 5 seconds, inhale over 7 seconds. Then once you start getting into a habit of doing slow breathing, then you actually do a hold. So like you inhale over 3 or 5 seconds, then you hold for a few seconds. Then you exhale, and then you hold for a few seconds. Eventually you get to a 7-5-7-5. Like inhale for 7 seconds, hold for 5, exhale for 7 seconds, hold for 5. Once you start doing that, it just changes the physiology of your body. The amazing thing is this: when your mental state changes, your world changes.
Mm-hmm. That's the exciting part. That's the exciting part. That's why I wanted to hear about it.
So that's the first thing that you do.
It's like a form of meditation, isn't it, when you start doing
It's
that?
the beginning of meditation. Just your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people say they're too busy to meditate, they're too busy to relax. What I say to people is this: you cannot tell me that your life is so busy that in 158 hours a week, you can't find 1 hour a week to meditate. So people that say you can't do it, they're just making excuses. Your life, if you're really frenetic, super busy, in 60 minutes, you can't tell me that you can't find 1 minute to just stop.
Yep.
It's a matter of being conscious of being able to do that. So how does that work? What happens is that you set your watch or an alarm every hour to go off to give you a warning. You got apps that'll do that on your phone. And I run an iWatch. I like that because what it does is that the alarm is very, very subtle. I can get just a little vibrate on my phone and it tells me when something's up.
Bring an artificial intelligence into your meditation.
Well, yeah.
Look at him go.
you can do that. Yeah. So then, once you have a trigger, every hour, you close your eyes and you just do 2 7-5-7-5 breath cycles in 1 minute. That's all you do. And I guarantee that this practice will not compromise what you are doing during the hour. In fact, when you become diligent in doing it every single hour, your productivity during the day will increase significantly. So that's just the first thing that can be done.
I think rather than just us talking about that, I think you and I next week should set that up and do that. Do it every minute.
Every minute?
Is it every minute?
Every
Every hour for 1 minute. So
Every
that's
hour for 1 minute.
So it's only 10 times. Say we're at work for 8-10 hours. It's only 8 to 10 times. Would you stop in the shop and do it if that time comes and it's exactly an hour apart? Is that what you're
you don't have to be anal about
don't
the
anal,
hour,
but
around that time.
So for our waking hours in the day, say 16. So we should try and get at least 16 2 cycles of 7-5-7.
But what you do is you close your eyes and you just focus on your breathing. That's the key.
Yeah.
Just for 1 minute every hour, you shut your eyes, you focus on your breathing, and you do that slow breathing, and that immediately changes your state.
We
and the stress that you find in the workplace, in the office, be dramatic.
I had hypnosis done for some anxiety that I was having before, and he got me in touch with an app to put on the phone that beeps on my Apple Watch and gives me a nudge.
Yeah.
And look at your phone, and look at your watch, and it says breathe, and it reminds you. There's that. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things
Yeah,
out there to
yeah.
do it to remind you. So it's done it to me, and then it'll give you a weekly breakdown of
Yeah.
the times that I just tapped it
Exactly.
to dismiss it because I was doing something, or the times that I went, yeah, I've got a minute, let's go.
Okay, so
And
the
it gives
first,
you a breakdown of it
so
all.
being in a rut, being stuck in a rut, the first thing you do is change the way you breathe.
Yep.
The second thing is change the way you look at the situation. So when you're stuck in a rut, it's useful to just write out in a sentence your biggest problem. I don't have enough time, or I can't keep ahead of my bills, or I can't stand my boss, or whatever. So whenever people are in a rut, they're caught and imprisoned in a condition that they don't want. So it's useful to actually write down the condition that they feel trapped in. So you write that down.
Like a visual opponent.
Yeah. Then once you write down the condition that you are trapped in, then you draw 2 columns underneath that. Okay? And then you write down 10.
It's not something you can combat with or rearrange to suit you. It's just the way you're thinking at any given time.
So that's the second thing to do.
Yeah.
When people are stuck in a rut, the third thing to do is a TO. TO is timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Timeout means that you block a particular, and everybody goes through that. A really great strategy is that when it gets heated, each one has the right to put their hands into a T and timeout. Timeout means that they stop immediately what they're saying, doing, and they physically walk to another part of the house. If the weather's good, they actually walk outside. And then they continue the discussion, and then what they do is they step into each other's shoes to change their perspective. Now, what you said to me was this, and then you put yourself in your other person's shoes and speak from that perspective. So time out is really good. One thing I enjoy about travel is because it takes me to different countries, different circumstances, different cultures. And what happens is that when I come back to Perth, I see my life completely differently. This is what timeout does. So when people are stuck in a rut, it's very useful to, you don't have to go overseas. You can just go somewhere different. Even walking to a park that you haven't done. We are blessed in Perth with amazing beaches.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the best place for timeout is on the beach. Because on the beach, you have the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are air, earth, sun, water, spirit. You got them all on the beach. And then you just sit there, watch sunset on the beach. Sunset on the beach is phenomenal.
Yep. Love walking down Secret Harbour Beach and doing that.
Yeah. So
Not as much as I don't do it as much as I should. The Mel's have got me right into it.
I don't remember the last time I ever
Really?
done that. Yeah.
I did it when my dad was here. I took my dad down there.
yeah,
With the Mel's, they sat there watching the
watching
sunset.
sunset over the water is magnificent. Now, what I said to you, Darren, earlier was, did I share with you the ritual that my partner Sian and I do when it comes to sun gazing, all that kind of stuff at the end of the year? This is what we do at the end of the year, and we've done it for the last 5 years, and every time it's been awesome. So we do a ritual called Agnihotra. Now, Agnihotra is an ancient 5 Vedic healing ceremony. And there's a lot involved in it, but you do it at Vedic sunrise and sunset. But the bottom line is it changes the energy of the space around you. Now, this process has been so powerful that it has been shown to completely negate radiation on the farm. True story.
It completely.
Negate radiation on the farm. Okay, now do you remember Chernobyl?
No.
Well, Chernobyl was this Russian nuclear reactor that spilled over
Sorry.
years
My bad.
ago.
Yep.
Years ago. And it polluted all the farmland around.
Yep.
And so they sent inspectors around with Geiger counters to go and test. Out of all the dairy farms, there was one farm where there was zero radiation. Zero radiation on the farm or in the products from the cows. Everything else around was contaminated. And it was like chalk and cheese. You walk on the farm, the Geiger counters went 0. You walked out of the farm, the Geiger counters went crazy. It was like that. The only difference was that farmer practiced agnihotra. That was the only difference. So there've been many, many examples like that. And you go, what the?
Yeah, I work at radiation, so to me that completely goes against everything that I know.
So instead of
Everything
having a
that you-
TLD,
that's right, everything that you know. But this is fact. Chronological fact. Also, another fact is this. Union Carbide disaster in India. That happened years ago. And what that did was poison and contaminate the village. And multiple generations of families had children born with atrocious deformities, with the limbs, everything else, etc. Well, over there were 5 families that had nothing. So the authorities sent researchers in to find out, well, why is it that these 5 families, their generation line they had none of these physical deformities in terms of the future generations. The one common thing with all these families that they all practice agnihotra.
Yeah, when you say it goes against everything that I know, I only know what I've been told.
Well,
So
and there's
Well-
obviously a physics behind.
there's a
behind
science
radiation.
behind it,
Yeah.
and you can go to the website agnihotra,
Agnihotra.
agnihotra.com.au, and you can see everything I'm talking about there. In
okay.
fact, the lady that brought this into Australia, she's got an amazing story to tell with her farm as well. And they practiced that, and the whole salinity of the land changed dramatically from pH 11 all the way down,
Mm.
just by practicing agnihotra over 3 months.
Well, if all these NDT companies that we work for are listening, we can do that to save us a fortune on building radiation bays, won't
Well,
we?
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, back to the ritual, end of the year ritual, my partner and myself. So we practice agnihotra. So on the last day of the year, we do agnihotra in the morning. We don't watch sunrise. Then we go down the river, do our meditation.
When you say you're doing it, what explain to me what you mean by doing it?
The whole ritual is this:
Yeah.
you get a copper pyramid, a little one. You have dung, cow dung, dried
Oh,
dung.
an actual ritual.
Yeah, it's a ritual.
It's like witchcraft.
You can call it witchcraft, but it's like that. It's like that. It's all this stuff like Harry Potter and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, and there's something in it because you can feel the energy shift. The change in the air is profound. You can see the life around, like the bird life, change after the ceremony. So you've got ghee, you've got a copper pyramid. There's a mantra that you do, and you light it at a particular time.
Yep.
Vedic sunrise, Vedic sunset, which is not the same time as the sun rises. And then the smoke changes. So it's profound. So we do that at the beginning of the last day of the year. Then we go down and do meditation. We spend the day together. And during the day, we look back on the year that's been. So we look at our photos, we look at the trips, we look at all the things that happened. We have a great time laughing at all the stuff. Because you look at the year, you see lots of humorous things. And then we give thanks for the positive things that have happened. Then what happens is that we then hold hands and we watch the sun go down together on the year.
Right.
So we do that ritual. We watch the sun go down on the last day of the year to close off the year. We do that. Then the first day of the new year, we go watch sunrise together at the river. So we watch sunrise together, we go do our meditation, we do our journaling. Then during the day, we look forward to the year in terms of what's on the plate, what can be doing, what's possible, the trips we're going to go, etc., 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 her direction, my direction, all that kind of stuff we do. So we do all that together. Then at the end of the first day, at sunset, we do agnihotra again. So we have a back-to-back agnihotra covering both days, sunrise, sunset. And that ritual has been amazing, absolutely amazing in our life. Since we started doing that, every year has been bigger, better, more profound than the year before.
Well, most people just say they're going to make a New Year's resolution. They never stick to it. But you're really like a grounded man, and you seem to be very balanced in the way you think and the way you talk about things. I wonder if it would help other people if they, instead of just saying this new year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit smoking and I'm going to do this. You seem to put closure on one chapter before you walk yourself through into the next, and that would
That's
probably
important.
be a lot more helpful, wouldn't it?
That's important.
Rather than getting
Yeah,
smashed.
they say I'm just going to open this next chapter and I'm not going to do this and I'm going to go to the gym more, but they haven't actually put a closure to.
Yeah, that they haven't got a process of how they're going
No.
to do it or a plan. Yeah.
This is what ritual's about. What happens is in life is this: 40% of your little rituals every day determine 70% of the results in your life. Let me say it again. 40% of the little rituals
I can believe that.
in your life determines 70% of the results.
Sportsmen, everyone will have a ritual before they go out on court, before they get in the ring, before a footballer goes on the pitch. They'll have a ritual they do, whether it's wear the same jocks every time or.
And that ritual is what determines their success or lack of.
Yep.
And this is what happens.
Yep.
We are creatures of habit. And so the habits and rituals that you do determine the results in your life. And these rituals go all the way to people's thoughts and thinking. So what thoughts are running through your head, what's going on, how you're thinking, how you're responding to a particular situation. Are you all the time feeding the negative, feeding the fear, or are you able to be more balanced and look at things differently? That's why in companies today, mindfulness is getting very, very big in terms of helping people deal with stresses and priorities, and when shit happens and this happens, that happens, how you cope with the situation. So that's makes it important. Now for me, my rituals that I seek to have in my life: sun gazing, breathing, going to the gym, meditating, spending time in reflection. So they're the things that I do a lot.
You're grounding yourself.
Yeah, but I also multitask. So I don't do one thing at one time. I do several things at one time
That's me
when it's
buggered.
appropriate. Well, for example, when I travel in aeroplanes, I like to have the seat next to me empty so that I can have two tray tables down. When I have two tray tables down, I got 3 screens in front of me. I'm the only dude on the aeroplane with 3 screens in front of him. Nobody else does. And I always get comments from, the air hostesses and stuff like that. And
I can see why.
the question I always get asked is,
You
why
had
do
3
you-
meals as well.
why do you need 3 screens? And my response is, number 1, simply because I can. Number 2, it allows me to get more done. Number 3, I can multitask with 3 screens. So how it works is my MacBook Pro, which is what you got.
Mm-hmm.
I hook up my iPad to that, so my iPad's a secondary screen to the MacBook.
Yep.
So that's where my work goes. Then I've got an iPad mini, that's my entertainment. So my iPad mini's either got music or movie going at the same time.
I was worried about my laptop getting up and slapping me. You're going to have a Royal Rumble going on.
So that's what I do. Now,
I was wondering when you got time to watch these movies that you quoted earlier, and now I know how you do it.
yeah,
You're not just sitting down watching a movie. You're
No.
watching a movie while you're
Watching
making
a
up
movie.
a next presentation or whatever.
exactly. Now, I've trained myself to do that. In 2002, one of the things I did was train as a Tony Buzan advanced trainer in mind mapping, speed reading, and memory techniques and stuff like that. And when you learn Tony Buzan's techniques, you train your brain to work organically and with both sides of your brain at the same time. So when you do that, you can multitask really good. Now, people are of the belief that you can only focus on one thing at one time. That is true when you are just doing left brain stuff. When you're doing whole brain stuff, that's not true. You can actually do more than one thing at one
What's
time.
whole brain stuff?
Or left and right brain together
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah.
same time.
But what would be a whole brain stuff? Just by using them together? Are there tasks that it would naturally use both sides, or?
Well, let me give you an example. Okay? Left brain is your logic.
Yep.
It's your numbers, your linear, etc. Right brain is your creative side. Color, sound, imagination, everything else. So when you bring the two things together, it's whole brain. So take, for example, mind mapping. Mind mapping is a whole brain process where you use both your left brain and your right brain at the same time. So I've been doing mind mapping since 2002. And I've developed a process called quantum mapping, where I use words in a mind map to dial into the energy of what's going on. really amazing, powerful process. I haven't introduced you guys to that yet.
I don't know whether the left or my right side of my brain is working when I hear that. Quantum mind mapping.
Yeah, I call it quantum mapping for short.
Wow.
And so the way the process works,
I was thinking the same.
the way the process works is that you can pick any issue. For example, if smoking's a problem in your life, okay, so what I would do is I would draw a mind map of words around smoking from your mouth.
So a mind map of words would be like a brainstorm.
Well, kind of.
Okay.
It works like this. So we'll just pretend that smoking's a problem for you, Greg, okay?
Yep.
So then I would say to you, as you think of your smoking problem, what's one word that comes to mind? You'll say addiction. What's another word so I'll draw that as a word with a branch. What's another word that comes to mind?
Health.
Health.
Yeah.
So health becomes another keyword. What's another word that comes to mind? Frustration. What's another word that comes to mind?
Cost.
Cost. So we draw a map. Then we go to each of those words and we unpack them. So we go to the first word, addiction. So as you think of the word addiction, what's one word that comes to mind? Bondage, or you know.
Not the first word I was thinking, but
Well, I'm just making it up, obviously.
Is this another podcast, Richard?
And then as you think of the word addiction, what's another word that comes to mind? Frustration. So you build a map like that, and then I have a process of looking at all those words. You have 18 words on that map, and you look at the energy of the words, and what comes out is profound. So what comes out is the root cause of your smoking, and what comes out as well as the steps you can take to overcome that. Now, that whole process takes 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
And I do that with people all the time. The process is so powerful that you can actually get a committee to agree on a contentious issue in 1 hour. That, under normal circumstances, is impossible. You could even get a group of polys to agree on something in an hour. So none of this 3 days of debate crap.
Yep. One of those on you would be pretty fascinating.
one of those on me. Why? To find out what makes me tick.
No, not so much to make you tick. No.
Fix me.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been trying for months.
Get to the root of it.
Greg's very helpful to my life.
You drink too much beer. That's your problem.
Well, you see, the
I
thing,
think it's the wine. It's not the beer. Alcohol in general.
Alcohol, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
one of the rules of the universe is cause and effect. Every effect has a cause. You want to, if the effect is no good, find the cause. But you've got to find the root cause.
Mm.
You got to fix the main cause of the problem, not the symptoms. What happens in traditional medicine is that they treat the symptoms. They don't treat
I was
the
exactly
cause.
going to say that then.
They mask them.
They don't treat the cause.
You go to the doctor and say, my back hurts. He gives you a pill to take away the pain.
Exactly.
It's not actually helping.
It's not fixing
No.
the
No.
problem. But the other issue is this. Every physical ailment in the human body has an emotional and spiritual root.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say it again. Every physical ailment in the body has an emotional and physical root. When you fix those, the problem goes away.
Yeah.
However, we're not going
to open that door yet.
We're
No.
not going to go there anymore because
I know where you're going.
this is completely outside the traditional box.
But
Yeah.
yes, I'm intrigued, and we will talk about that another time.
I think that's one that I think your wife will have to come on for one of those, won't she?
Oh yeah. She'll be very good for that. So I'm going to recommend you have her on,
Yeah.
and not only you find her a very interesting person, this particular area, the stories that she can tell you. Now, did you know that she started life as a left brain lawyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did say.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
and she was very good, and she got into criminal law. So she's got a penchant for horror and murders and all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
All right, but I'm safe with her, so it's good. And I just realized that within 2 days of moving in with her and being with her, I don't argue with her, because the moment I argue with her, I'm toast.
Yeah.
Because she switches into lawyer mode and I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I got nowhere to go.
She's been building a case since she met you.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's correct.
Women are good at that anyway.
Yeah.
Without being
correct.
trained in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
correct. So have her on for sure.
100%.
She's back in July. So I'll let
Oh,
her.
you two aren't going to see each other for a while then.
No. I'm still overseas. However, you see, she's back in July
Yeah.
for a month. Then the 28th of August, she's flying to Kuala Lumpur to join me.
Ah, okay.
See, we have a habit now of clearing out of Perth during winter, and we found what works
It's not
for
a bad
her.
way to do it, is it?
Yeah, we found what really works for us to have 2-3 weeks in Malaysia, where we used to come from, and that's really nice because it's hot, humid weather, the
Yeah.
food, and we're going to go to a resort in Ipoh called Jimbaran.
Oh,
There's this
Jimbaran.
there's this amazing resort that's built around some caves.
You're thinking of something else.
Bali.
Yeah.
Chimbaran Bay. You're
Yeah.
thinking of.
Well, it's kind of a spin on that in Ipoh, Malaysia.
Okay.
So we're going to go to that resort and spend a couple of days there.
Oh, nice. So where are you heading to after this?
What?
You going to the States?
Yeah. We've got a flight from Perth to New York
Okay.
on the 29th, and we're flying Etihad Airlines, Middle Eastern.
I would recommend them any day of the week. They're fantastic. Much more room on the seats as well. I mean, you may be flying a different class than me, but I think from economy class they were great.
Well,
They
we're doing economy, except that because I'm on Platinum Virgin, Velocity Frequent Flyer, we get to go into their first class lounge in Abu Dhabi. Now, the first class lounge there in Abu Dhabi is amazing. It's
Yeah.
jaw dropping off the
I
charts.
can imagine.
Fine dining. Plus.
So you got a tour of America?
Cian's got a workshop in New York, North Carolina, and Los Angeles. We're going to
Yep.
end up in Los Angeles for Mass Meditation.
Ooh.
Mass Meditation in Los Angeles is a very unique event that started up last year, and we've been helping the organizer, Adrian, since then.
When you say meditation and Los Angeles in one sentence, the chaos of LA, it doesn't make
That's
sense, does
why
it?
this is so good.
It's probably so important
That's
for
why
them to
this
do
is-
it.
That's why this is so good. Have you heard of the Maharishi effect?
No.
Okay, the Maharishi effect is something that's chronicle, and what happened was they put a few thousand transcendental meditators into a city in the US, and this is being scientifically chronicled. And these guys just meditated. It's just straight meditation and bringing peace into the city for 2-3 months, something like that. The crime rate dropped 80% over the period of time.
Just from the energy.
Incredible.
Yeah, just from the
Just-
energy of the
yeah.
meditation.
I think there's got to be something in that because you can feel bad energy in a room. You can feel an atmosphere. I mean, I've always
Yes.
been able to sense.
If you walk into a dodgy bar, you know
Yeah,
straight away,
yeah.
don't you?
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
it's not
People are
just
emitting that energy.
Yeah, and like sometimes if I'm in a busy shopping centre, especially for some reason Rockingham's shopping centre, it drives me crazy. I'm in there and I could just feel all this horrible, horrible energy, and it bothers me to the point where I've got to get out of there. So I mean, you would have felt when you was doing your tours of Iraq and whatnot.
Yeah, I spent 9 months of knowing I wasn't welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. But there'd be
I became immune to negativity.
Yeah, but you become immune to negativity. But then I'm sure there'll be plenty of times when you got that heightened sense of, yeah, this shit is always pretty horrible, but today, this particular moment feels a lot worse than normal. And
Yeah, when you lost somebody.
well, not just that, but would you ever pick up on a vibe that's about to happen? Something that's, I mean,
Yes.
There's tells.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're learned tells or you feel
They're
them?
both. Yeah, you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
When you know what you're looking for and you see it, you're naturally going to feel it anyway.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Hey,
But
Greg.
a lot of it was visual.
Hey, Greg. Just picking up on your tour of Iraq. Have you seen one of the recent movies, 12 Strong?
No.
Go watch that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really good.
12 strong.
Yeah. It's
Have I heard of this?
it was out last year, starring Chris Helmsworth, and it's a true story about this crack unit in the U.S. that went into Iraq, the Taliban and stuff like that. You'll like it.
Okay. I like those movies. I have dreams about them. That's the
It's
problem.
called 12. It's called 12 Strong. I saw it on the airplane.
What's the what was the one with Matt Damon? And he goes a bit rogue as an officer to go out and find some information about why the nukes weren't real. in
Not
Iraq.
Finding Private
Come
Ryan.
on, no, not Saving Private Ryan. Matt
That's it.
Damon was.
Finding Nemo.
Come on,
No, it wasn't Finding
someone out there be
Nemo.
listening to this saying it. Area, no, not Area. I can't remember it. But when it first came out, it might come to me in a minute. And I mention it because it popped up on iTunes last night when me and Demelza were going to watch a film. And she asked, "Oh, what's this movie?" And I said, "I'm not watching that." Because when I came home, I went to the cinema, watched this movie, and the way that they were setting up in cordons and stuff, and watching, like I said, the dickers on the roofs, and you know that they're watching, and you know these scenarios, and you can tell that something is going to happen somewhere.
Something's
Not
brewing.
going to happen, but the potential for it is there. And they made it so realistic in that movie that I smelt Iraq when I was in the cinema.
Oh, yeah.
That heightened my senses that much that I could smell the desert.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
weird.
Yeah.
It freaked me out.
It's one of the most well, it is the most powerful sense, isn't it? A smell can
Smell is.
can make you can trigger your memory to.
That's right.
That's probably what it was. Yeah, it's just some sort of flashback, isn't
It's
it?
a
But,
trigger, yeah.
That's why essential oils are so powerful for people
Yeah.
in terms of healing and things like that. The aromatherapy is really good stuff.
Mm.
Very powerful.
we had some burning before you came.
Can we just backtrack slightly back to the light and the benefits that people gain from.
Okay, I didn't get to that.
We didn't get to
No.
that.
All right.
I'm just trying to keep it all together.
Well, the benefits for the light are this.
After 2 hours.
After a session, usually a session is like 25, 30 minutes. So
That's what we did, right?
You,
It was 25 minutes, yeah.
You're lying. You sit or lie down in front of the lights with your eyes closed, and you just enjoy this light show, kaleidoscope of shapes and colors.
Just like your T-shirt.
Yeah, and then what happens is you have a beautiful psychedelic experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all drug free, so no side effects. The three big benefits of a light session are: number one, you sleep better. So that's the biggest impact I find from people. And we've done thousands of people, so they sleep better. And the reason why they sleep better is that your pineal gland produces more serotonin, so you got more melatonin produced at night. That's the first thing. The second effect is your body is a whole lot less stressed. So the stress level in your body goes down dramatically. And I have hundreds of ECG, electrocardiogram results,
Yep.
to prove the difference before and after. So you can actually physically measure the stress level drop after a light session dramatically. Also, what happens is that people's resting pulse shifts. So people's resting pulse shifts anything from 3 to 9 beats per minute lower after light session. So that's another indication of the reduced stress. The third thing that happens is that people's brain, it works better. So they seem to have a clearer brain, clearer head, being able to think and function a whole lot better over the next few days.
I definitely experienced that just from that one session.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to see what it does to my stress levels if I did a few sessions on that, because
when you do a few sessions, what happens is that the base level of your functioning shifts up to a higher level and tends to lock in for a longer period of time. Also, these light sessions do miraculous things if you're an athlete. So if you're into boxing or karate or golf or anything like that, it actually lifts your performance bar up.
Interesting.
And I can tell you.
And how is that possible?
Well, what happens is that it allows your brain to go into a state that is like the Zen state. So when you do enough light sessions, you're able to take your brain to this brain state, this Zen state, a whole lot easier. I'll give you an example. When we had our Lucia light turn up in our life in October 2012. So I'm doing the light 3 to 5 times a week when we first got it. 5 months down the track, I go play golf with a friend of mine, Tim, and I'm a hacker. Okay, so when I don't play golf, on the tee the ball goes all over the place. That always happens when I haven't played golf for a while.
Yeah, happens to everyone.
Exactly. Well, that day, I get on a golf course. I just get my brain zeroing in into this beautiful state under the light, and I kid you not, I hit 17 out of 18 fairways on that day from the tee. Now, I've never ever done that before in my life, playing golf. Even if I've been playing regularly, I've never hit 17 out of 18 fairways. Then, just to prove that it's extraordinary, I shoot 2 birdies back to back. I have never ever done that in all the years I've been playing golf. Shoot 2 birdies back to back.
Shit.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And mine isn't the only story. Like I've got a number of client stories like that playing golf.
You're going to have a line of golfers outside your house tomorrow morning, you know
Well,
that, right?
yeah. I mean, it's extraordinary, but you have to have you have to have a
something.
series of sessions like that. I had another client that I was giving light sessions to, and he pipes up and says to me, "This is in Melbourne," and he pipes up to me and says to me, "Richard, tomorrow will be the acid test in terms of how good your light is. I'm having a very important golf game tomorrow."
Mm.
So he's playing a guy, and there's a lot at
Yeah, yeah.
stake in golf. I catch up with him a week later. He's all smiles and says, "There's something in your light. I played the best golf ever, and my playing partner couldn't take the lead off me, which hadn't happened before."
Shit.
So stuff like that. And the birdies back to back were extraordinary. One was a par 4, one's a par 3. The par 4 was even more extraordinary because it was a bit on the rise, slight dogleg to the left, a bunker before the green. I couldn't even see the flag. So I put my first shot down the middle of the fairway, pull out a 5-wood, and put the ball a foot from the cup.
With a wood?
Yeah. Exactly. With a wood. 5-wood. And there was one of the greenkeepers cutting the grass around there, and he came to me, "I've never seen this done on this hole before."
They ask for your autograph.
He not quite, but you know, that's what happens. Then I put students on the line, and they do better in the exams than they've ever done before.
So it expands your brain capacity, or lets you target things that you really actually want to be using, or
Let me
specifically.
let me explain what you're saying in these words.
Yeah.
What the light does, it's like a supercharger for your brain. Okay,
Mhm.
so when you stick a supercharger in your car, you give it a lot more power to do things that it never was able to do. So you stick yourself on the light, you have a series of
Mhm.
light sessions, it's like a supercharger to your brain. So whatever you do shifts to another level.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see if Jay from Onyx listens to this and you get a
Yeah. Well,
see him chucking the boys under the light.
I think so. Just a little bit about the how do people get in touch with? Do you do sessions for people?
Yeah,
or
we do sessions. Sienna and I in Peppermint Grove. Rather than give the phone number, just go to our website.
Yep.
And put a post there. And
Give us the website. What is it?
It's
the website?
lucialight.com. LUCIA light LIGHT.com. Very simple.
Lucia Light.
So
So
L-
people can go to that
U-
website. They can contact you there
yeah,
and book in for a session
That's
if they need to.
that's correct.
LUCIA
CIA light LIGHT.
All one word.
LIGHT.
All one
Yeah.
word.
Yep. .com.au.
No, just .com.
Just .com.
Easy.
Okay.
LuciaLight.com.
And they can. Have you got like an online booking?
Yeah. Over there you can post an inquiry there and so on.
Do we have a cost, or just look at the website to find that?
Well, the cost usually is about $50-$60 for a session.
Yep.
Ranging from 25 minutes to...
Usually about 25-30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
We don't usually go more than that because we find that a 60-minute session, you double the time, but you're not going to get double the effect.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So you're better off saving that for another time to come back for
Yeah,
an
yeah.
extra session.
Yeah,
to-
exactly.
Is there a certain when you say that, that just makes me think of one thing. So if you go for a 30-minute session, you get a lot of benefit. Is that because most of the work is done in the first 30 minutes? Because you said that if you go for an hour,
Well, you see, there's something called the law of diminishing returns.
mhm.
Okay, 30 minutes gets you right up there. Another 30 minutes, you might have a 10% improvement.
Okay.
So that's why I found 30 minutes is
So
30 minutes is good.
Yeah, that's your sort of window
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
absorption.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's effective that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this technology is only in its infancy, because in
Mm.
the future, we're going to find that light medicine will be the medicine of the future. This is where it's all going.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm in touch with people in the ILA, International Light Association, internationally, and they're doing cutting research on this kind of stuff. And so that's where it's going, because light in itself is really essential for the body, and the cells of the body respond to light. That's why going out in the sun's good.
Yep.
Sun gazing in the morning, evening is good. Sun baking is good. So going on the beach, lying under the sun when you're away from the high UV, that's really good.
Mm-hmm. So that's obviously like not telling people to go out there and sort of go out there and get sunburnt, but just taking out when the UV index is low. So or do you be that picky, or do you just
No, I check the UV index.
You do, yeah.
Because the UV index now is low this time of the year. In
Yeah,
summer
okay.
it's really high.
Yeah.
So you
So
just
that's
pick
what I was
the
saying earlier.
times.
Like you can actually this time of year you can go outside and enjoy the
You
sunshine
can.
without feeling too hot.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well,
you
your
could
your max UV index this time of the year is around 6.
yeah. Okay.
In summertime, it's like double that, like 12, which is
Mhm.
extreme.
Yeah.
So your the number of hours that you can lie in the sun with the low UV index is longer this time of the
Yeah.
year.
So you'll absorb more.
Yeah.
Is it vitamin E?
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
S-
So darkness.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hoping you're going to come to that. Now, darkness is the absence of light. However, when you look at the origin of the universe, in the beginning was the void. Light was not there. And then, if you believe the biblical principle, God spoke the sound, the wave, the resonance, let there be light. So, supposedly, sound came before light, but the origin is darkness, which is the absence of light. Now, another word I prefer to use to describe this condition is the void, VOID. The void is nothingness. And the essence of ultimate creator God, if you choose to believe in one, is nothingness. And so dark is that kind of essence. The interesting thing is light came from dark.
Yeah.
And so it's not to be feared. The boogeyman is what's been imprinted in people. And even though darkness is the absence of light, dancing with your darkness is something that's part of life.
Okay. So being comfortable with it.
Comfort is one thing, but dancing with it is not just being comfortable with it. Dancing with it is acknowledging it, engaging it, interacting with it, and allowing it in your life to help you move on. That's the
So
difference.
darkness, metaphorically speaking, or physical darkness, or like are you talking like describing a mood of darkness, or
Okay, a good question. Let's look at darkness and light from the view of positive and negative in the context of consciousness. So when you look at the context of consciousness and you've got darkness. Now, shadow work is something that happens within spiritual and esoteric circles. And shadow work is looking at the parts of yourself that you don't like. Shadow work is looking at the opposite of what's good, what's true, what's noble. Now, for example, nobody's perfect. So when someone screws up or does something that they consider, inverted commas, bad or negative, that is a reflection of behavior out of, inverted commas, their shadows. And so being able to identify that in you is really good. And this is what dancing with the darkness is all about. And so it's not to be feared. It's to be first acknowledged, accepted, and then embraced. Because once you do that, then fear goes out. And then when you actually are able to do that, then you actually transcend judgment. When you transcend judgment, then you don't beat yourself up. And then when people say all sorts of things about you, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good place to be in a position whereby you can have a healthy perspective of who you are in the context of your life, and it doesn't matter what people say.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about light and dark.
So that's not sort of to take on an arrogant or oblivious attitude. It's being conscious that not to take on board anyone else's negative thoughts about you, or even to judge yourself in a negative thoughts based on someone else's opinion of you.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, everything needs to have balance.
Yeah.
Good balance is really important,
Mhm.
because you can take anything to the extreme in one way. For example, you could take what you've just said and go, it doesn't matter whatever bad I do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's giving you like a license to kill, but that's not what you're saying. It's like embrace your faults,
Yeah.
understand them, and understand how they
Yeah.
might affect other people,
Yeah.
and don't let anyone else's ill thoughts towards you
Exactly.
affect your actions, because that's that's your space.
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, License to Kill. Do you know that the 25th Bond movie's out next year?
Is it really?
25th.
25th.
Hmm.
And because it's 25, Daniel Craig is being paid $25 million
just
for
round
this
it up.
role.
Just round it up.
And the
Whoa.
reason why
Why not?
the reason why this is now the highest paycheck for an actor is because he didn't want to do it, and
Didn't he?
No, he didn't want to do it, and they had to give him lots of money to entice him to do it this last time. This is like to be his last time as
He would
Bond.
never need to work again, so
No.
not surprised.
It's a way to go.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I'm a James Bond fan. I've
Yeah,
watched all the
big
movies since
time.
the start.
Yep.
And I must say, I like Daniel Craig as the current Bond. He's
Very
he's
good,
really
yeah.
giving it a good genre and style and everything else. It won't be the same without him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Definitely.
We do
Oh.
a good movie review podcast. Us three,
Yeah,
wouldn't
you,
we?
you should do that. I mean, my
Well, the topics are endless. There's no script
No.
ever. So
Nope.
well, my fond memories of James Bond goes back to Goldfinger.
yes.
I remember seeing that as a kid in the 60s
Yeah.
with Sean Connery.
Yeah, he was a very good Bond.
Yeah, he was. And his Aston Martin those days, the DB5 with machine guns and ejector seat, hot.
Yeah.
So,
So I think the one that I remember the most is The Man with the Golden Gun.
you like that one?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Well, that was with Roger Moore, if I'm not mistaken.
That was, yeah. Oui, Monsieur Scaramangaire. Wasn't it him?
Where's Colin? He does a
Ni-
good,
Nick Nack.
good Roger Moore. Was it Roger Moore? No, who did he do?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
I shoot him in my shirt, Miss Money Penny.
But the best car chase was in Die Another Day, I think it is,
Yes.
with Pierce Bronson.
Through
where
the
they-
ice.
through the ice
Yeah.
with the Jag and the
Yeah.
Aston Martin
Yeah.
and the machine guns
That was
and
incredible.
rockets. And
That was incredible.
so that's the best car chase on the Bond. Love that one. And did you know that in London, when I was there a few years ago, they had an exhibition of Bond cars.
Yeah, all the DB9 was in that
And
movie, I think.
they had those. They had those cars there. They had the Jag there, and
The
they had
originals?
well, I'm not sure whether the originals, but it had all the rockets on it.
Yeah, right.
Did you go?
Well, I went to have a look at the car exhibition. They were there right in front of you with,
Mm.
with the rockets and everything else, etc. So
I
it was
remember,
really, really cool.
sometimes you're at the airport and you get these raffles that
Yep.
that doing the cars. Was one time I was leaving from Heathrow to come over here to see my eldest daughter, and there was one of these things where you got to, put a cross to find, the secret. It's my phone going off. I'll ring back in a sec. And it was for Aston Martin DB9,
Yeah.
and yeah, I paid £50 for a ticket.
And you thought you might have been Bond.
I dreamt. So the whole time I was over here for like 3 weeks at the time. The whole time I was just praying that when I got home, I didn't have to get the train. I could just drive that home. Didn't happen. But I was convinced I had a good chance. But nah.
Well, did you also know that when Die Another Day was launched, they took the green Jag with the machine gun into Sydney? They had to get a special permission to drive it through the streets, but it caused a huge stir
I bet.
in terms of attraction. Street stopper.
Right, boys. How do you feel about that? Have we done enough?
Yeah,
I'm good.
Do you think we've done enough?
I
I'm
think
good.
so. For
I think it's incredibly easy to talk to you, Richard, and it's even easier to listen to you.
Okay.
yes,
So this could probably go on for days.
Yes.
What I'd like to do is we'll call it a day for today, I think.
yeah,
But I 100% want to have you back again
Of course, I'll be happy to
Um,
come back.
once you've finished on your worldly travels.
Yeah, I'll be happy to come back.
So you're leaving on the 29th?
Leaving on 29th, fly back in on the 1st of November.
Okay.
that's my birthday.
Oh, very good.
So this podcast will be available for download on iTunes tonight.
Okay.
They'll have your email on there. So before the 29th, 1,000 people are going to email you
Oh, well.
to come and jump on your
if they
line.
do good.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I know personally around 15 people that would be keen straight away.
Yeah, I had really good feedback when I told people that we did
Massive,
this, and
yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah.
People were very interested.
Like I said, about 80% of the people that I spoke to have heard about it, didn't know much about it, wanted to know how to get on one, and I said to them, "Well, just tune into the podcast. We're going to be talking about it with
Yeah.
the world leader you'd classify yourself as the biggest distributor in the world of.
Well,
Say yes, because
in this area,
that's what we've been telling people.
in this area, I'm on the top of the heap. I put more people on the lights than anybody else. I've
Yep.
gone around the world.
Yep.
And I'm functioning in 10 countries. I know more about this technology than most people.
There you go. That's sold. So you know what you're talking about.
And yeah, thank you very much for coming on, Richard.
Pleasure's mine.
And when you come back from the US, hit me up,
I will do that. For
and
sure.
we'll do this
Look
again
forward.
and
Look
see
forward
what
to it.
else we can dig up from the murky
That'd
borders.
be great. And I'll send my partner Sian to see you in July when she's back.
Yes, that would
Yep.
be fantastic.
That would be
too.
good too, eh?
Yeah, 100%. She
Okay.
might be able to fix me, Greg.
She
Oof.
will. And you'll find her a most amazing, entertaining woman. She's a scream.
When I met her just briefly when we were talking to you, and like we were sort of intrigued by what you were coming out with. Then Cien sat down briefly just to sort of say hello. Then she started to talk about what she does, and me and Greg both were focused directly on her. So she was, she's up there.
She's got
It-
that same.
She's got
aura.
that same draw.
Yes.
Which really interested to get to know you both a lot better. And
Sweet.
Yeah.
And when we're in Los Angeles at Mass Meditation, there's a potential we could be speaking to up to 10,000 people.
Ooh,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So that'll be cool.
and you're going
Yes.
to tell them that they can hear you on the Refuge Chamber, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Plug it in. Plug
Okay.
it in.
Till next time, Richard. Thank you
For
very
sure.
much.
Pleasure's mine.
Cheers.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
We're done.
Okay. Sweet.
Burning. Thanks for
Pleasure's mine.